Ever get that feeling, like someone online is just trying to get a rise out of you, crafting the perfect nasty comment just to watch the world burn?
Yeah, we've all been there.
Well, today we're diving into the world of internet trolls, trying to figure out what makes them tick.
Right, not about letting them off the hook, but gotta understand something to actually address it, right?
Makes sense.
And we've got some fascinating research to dig into. It's called Constructing the Cyber Troll: Psychopathy, Sadism, and Empathy.
Okay, constructing the cyber troll sounds kind of ominous, like a guidebook or something.
Hmm.
But before we get too deep, let's define trolling.
Hmm.
I mean, we've all seen comment sections go off the rails. Doesn't mean everyone's a troll, right?
Yeah, good point. It's more than just disagreeing online or having a heated debate. This study, it defines trolling as using deception and harmful behavior on purpose. To provoke a reaction, disrupt everything, just generally make the online space a miserable experience. And the kicker, they're often doing it for their own amusement.
So basically, someone chucking a wrench into the gears just for the fun of it.
Exactly. And what's wild is what the study says about the kinds of personalities drawn to this. Turns out there's a strong link between trolling and what psychologists call the dark triad of personality traits.
Okay, dark triad. Now that sounds serious. Are we talking supervillain levels of evil here?
Uh huh. Maybe not quite supervillain level, but we're getting there. The dark triad, it's narcissism, Machiavellianism, and the big one for us today, psychopathy.
Okay, so psychopathy in the context of trolls, what's that really mean?
Now, important to remember, we're not talking clinical diagnoses here. We all have these traits to a degree. But when they talk about psychopathy in this study, think lack of empathy, lack of remorse, impulsive behavior, often manipulative.
So someone who gets a thrill out of poking the bear online, knows it's causing a problem but doesn't really care.
Pretty much. And here's where the study takes another turn. They also found that sadism, another one of those dark triad traits, was a strong predictor of trolling behavior.
Wait, hold on. Sadism?
Mhm.
Like actually enjoying someone else's pain?
Yeah, it's a tough reality. The study found that people who score high in sadism, they actually feel a sense of enjoyment, even gratification, from being cruel to others. And yeah, even if it's through the internet, it still counts.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Like someone who really gets off on causing pain, they'd need some level of understanding of their target, right?
Right.
And that's where the whole empathy angle of this study gets really interesting.
See, now this is where I'm lost. I always thought empathy was like the opposite of everything we just talked about. How can someone be that cruel, that calculated, and still have empathy?
You're hitting on a key point there, and it's one of the things that makes this study so fascinating. It's not that trolls don't have any empathy at all. Actually, they found this specific type, cognitive empathy, was a surprisingly strong predictor of trolling.
Hold on, back up a sec. Empathy with an adjective. I thought empathy was just, well, empathy. Think of it like there are two sides to empathy. We've got affective empathy. That's the one we usually think of. It's that feeling what someone else is feeling, that mirroring. You see someone upset, you feel a little bit upset too. That's affective empathy.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So what's the other one then?
Cognitive empathy, this one's less about feeling and more about understanding. Like the ability to step into someone else's shoes, see their point of view, get where they're coming from emotionally, even if you don't necessarily feel it yourself.
So like you can recognize the emotion, understand it's there, but you don't actually get caught up in it emotionally. That's pretty wild.
It is, and here's where it gets even more interesting. The study found that trolls who were high in both psychopathy and cognitive empathy, potentially the most skilled at inflicting pain online.
Man, talk about unfair advantage, right? It's like they're weaponizing psychology. I think a lack of empathy would be the troll starter kit, not like an abundance of it.
It's like they're taking that understanding of emotion, but instead of using it to connect, they use it to manipulate, to figure out exactly what to say to cause the most damage.
So messed up. It's like they've got this like twisted emotional intelligence that they use for evil instead of good.
That's a great way to put it. And something else this study confirms, something a lot of people have noticed, men are more likely to engage in trolling than women.
Well, that's not going to shock anyone who spent more than 5 minutes in any online comment section. But it's not like every guy out there is a troll, right?
Definitely not. Important to remember, boiling this down to gender is way too simplistic. While the study did find a difference there, personality plays a much bigger role than just gender. You've got women who exhibit these traits and plenty of men who don't.
So where does this leave everyone else just trying to, use the internet without losing our minds?
Yeah.
If we run into a troll out there in the wild, Is it a lost cause?
Not at all. I'd actually say this knowledge is power. The more we get what makes trolls tick, what their game is, the better we are at not getting sucked in.
Okay, I like that. But doesn't it seem like ignoring them never works? Like that just makes them go even harder.
You're right. Silence usually isn't the answer with a troll. And that's because a lot of the time, what they're after is attention, a reaction. They want to control the vibe, even if it's just a comment section. Every time we react, we're giving them what they want.
So then how do we stop it? What's the troll repellent here?
Think of it this way. You wouldn't, climb into a cage with a bear that's clearly ready to fight, right? Trolls, same idea. Don't engage, don't poke the bear.
Love the analogy. Easier said than done though. Sometimes that perfect comeback, it just pops into your head.
Oh, I know the feeling, believe me. But the thing that works best, more often than not, is the hardest. Don't give them what they want. Starve them out. Like taking a toy away from a toddler. Eventually they get bored and move on.
Don't feed the trolls.
Got it.
This whole thing though, it feels bigger than just individual people, right?
Mm.
Like, what about the internet itself? Doesn't all that anonymity make people more likely to act this way?
That is a great question. And honestly, one we could spend a whole other episode unpacking the way individual psychology and the online world, feed off each other. It's fascinating. And it's changing all the time.
Well, there you have it, folks. Something to think about.